What's going on, fellow freelancers? Coming at you today with another Anthem video. Today I just have a buttload of new information to give you, several updates, and confirmation on patch notes coming for the official launch the 22nd. Lots of changes coming. Stay tuned. Real quick, before we get into the actual updates, I just wanted to point out there's been some confusion regarding your Javelin look. Okay, so your Javelin look is dictated by your wear state, which can be found under your appearance tab. This can be everything from old, dirty, new, shiny, things like that. Although it's clean, not shiny, but shiny sounds better. Anyways, when you first start the game, you got dirty and old, which makes sense because, not to give any spoilers, it just makes sense. When you start the game, you'll understand. So what you got to do is you have to raise your faction standing with the Freelancer faction. And when you gain your different faction level ups, at level 1, you will receive the standard wear state. Faction level 2, you will reach the clean wear state, and faction level 3 will give you the new wear state. Now, when combined with other factions such as Sentinel and Arcanists, they will give you materials such as metals that you can use to change what your javelin is made of. Combined with the clean and the new, it'll make you look shiny and pretty. So, since there's confusion, I just wanted to take a second, throw that in there. Let's get into the updates. Since there is a lot of frustration and anger aimed towards the Finding Old Friends and the Tombs of the Legionnaire missions, there is this. Thanks to your feedback, we have identified several issues causing problems for players in the Finding Old Friends and Tombs of the Legionnaires missions. We have made some changes that allows progress to start being tracked much earlier. This means that you'll earn progress towards the challenge starting at level 3, which basically means you'll start earning the progress as you level up. So by the time you actually reach that point in the story, you'll have a lot less tediousness to get through, which is great. In regards to gear and weapons, after having first pilot unlock suit after tutorials, creating a new pilot and going to Forge no longer causes load screen hang. Ice damage bonuses are now correctly applied on ice gear. Suit-wide bonuses and inscriptions are now functioning properly. Players can no longer salvage equipped items. Javelin-specific gear and or weapons are no longer able to be used on javelins they aren't intended for. Corrected an issue where in some circumstances Masterwork components do not have any inscriptions. The Endless Siege Masterwork autocannon no longer displays a damage increase of 0% in its tooltip. Moving right along, we have general fixes and improvements. Loot reveal and expedition summary now correctly play during the end of expedition screen. The gather party mechanic has been made more lenient in a number of situations. At the end of expedition screen, players will no longer get stuck on recording victories or skipping all. Game no longer hangs in javelin menu when unlocking the second, third, or fourth javelin. During the mission What Freelancers Do, dying after killing Junk Maw and freeing the Arcanists leaves you unable to progress. This has been fixed. Challenges now unlock for players at the correct levels. Legendary contracts can now be accepted from the Social Hub contract board. Some enemies have had their shield values decreased. Loot now properly drops for players who are downed. The texture quality on the NPC Prospero has been improved. Final boss of Strongholds now drop loot instead of only being shown at the end of the expedition screen. Fixed the timeouts on echoes and relics to prevent grieving and to handle disconnections properly. Players can no longer fall through the floor during the third trial in the Fortress of Dawn. Completing the tutorial expedition will now show the correct Ranger appearance. After disconnecting, rejoining an expedition will now place you back in a squad if you were in one previously. Corrected an issue where players could not interact with each other in the launch bay in certain circumstances. Corrected an issue during the mission Bad Deal where outlaws won't spawn, blocking progress. The start of expedition screen has been improved, addressing a variety of situations where killing enemies does not properly progress world events. Opening a chest now increments Tomb of the Legionnaire progress for all squad members present, which is a big one for anyone who has done it and knows what I'm talking about. Scar snipers can no longer shoot through storm shields. Corrected an issue where players would get stuck on the end of expedition screen in some situations. Players will no longer get disconnected if joining the Finding Old Friends mission while the cinematic is playing. Addressed a number of situations where players can get stuck on the environment in the launch bay. Increased the damage of the electrical status effect, corrected an issue where the Shield of Dawn could be crafted with less material than intended in some situations. The Platinum Mission feat now grants completion as intended, and status effects can now reliably be applied to Titans. Moving on to high-level fixes, which is very, very much wanted and needed, we have improved loading times. Fixed many infinite loading screens, which I honestly wasn't even aware was still happening. Fixed multiple challenges not tracking properly. A number of issues have been fixed that were causing players to disconnect or crash, and weapons and gear now have numbers present for their actual modifiers. Couple of changes coming to the javelins. The Colossus is now able to activate its shield more quickly after using an ability or firing a weapon. The Storm Javelin now reacts to getting hit when its shields are up. Fixed an exploit that allowed the Storm's ultimate attack to be used more times than intended. So if you're one of those people that has abused that, sucks for you. The Colossus can now shield and revive at the same time. Honestly, why this wasn't in the game at the start, I have no idea, but hey, there it is. The Interceptor combo aura has been increased in power and now has a damage over time component. For strongholds, fixed an issue that would cause a stronghold server crash after defeating the last boss. Temple of Scar, players can no longer get stuck in the mined tunnel in the explosives room, and also players can no longer be blocked from entering the explosives room due to fog wall. Fixed Tyrant Mines so people that join the stronghold in progress do not end up locked away from their team. Adjusted lighting in Tyrant Mine underwater section to make it easier to navigate to the exit. The Swarm Tyrant will no longer get stuck in the side cave entrances in some situations, and corrected an issue where players would spawn into different areas of the Tyrant Mine in certain situations. Moving on to UI, some conversations were not popping up the reputation points post-conversation completion. This has been fixed. The squad screen now displays the correct information for each player. Fixed a number of issues where subtitles will no longer get stuck on the screen after dialogue has finished as often. Settings should no longer reset upon exiting and restarting the game on Xbox One. Motion blur can now correctly be turned off. The electric status effect now shows scaled damage properly. An option has been added to hide the squad member HUD. The edge of the compass will now pulse to indicate enemy's location. A notification has been added in Fort Tarsis if a player's vault is at the cap. On the Repair the Strider step of A Cry for Help, the search radar has been adjusted to correctly lead the players to all 4 tools. Primer and detonator icons have been added to all interceptor gear. Corrected a user interface issue where a player's ultimate would show as available even when it wasn't, which I can speak from experience, makes for some pretty embarrassing gameplay videos because you're standing there and you're getting shot at and the people watching can't tell what you're doing and you're just trying to activate your ultimate, which shows it's up, but it's not. It's embarrassing, to say the least. Regarding the load screens specifically, it was asked if there was a chance that you guys will cut the loading screens. And Mark Dar responded with, loads definitely something on the top of the list. There are some preliminary thought. Also, there are a few things in the next patch. Also, we may try something server side this week. So they seem to have every intention of fixing the load screens, maybe removing some. I don't know, but luckily, I mean, they're on top of it clearly. So hopefully that becomes a legit thing, because the load screens really are an issue. Now, regarding something that a lot of people are confused about, when the game was originally being talked about, they mentioned that there was going to be a pilot talent tree, which we now know it no longer exists. Ben's response to this was available in an early version of the game. It fell short for a bunch of reasons. We moved the functionality to the component system, which allows for the playstyle choices we wanted originally. We have some plans for the old pilot's skill system coming after launch. So we'll see what comes of that. Okay, so that's it for the update notes that we received yesterday. I'd also like to point out, which I mentioned on my last video, is Ben has already said in the last live stream, to be specific, that there are roughly 1,000-ish updates and fixes coming to the day one patch. For people that are confused, early access does not actually count as the game launching. That's why it's called early access. The game's actual launch is Friday the 22nd. So any actual launch and or day one patches will not go live until day one of the actual game. Sad to say, but early access is pretty much just acting as a final beta bug test and stress test for the servers, which is great news for those people that are starting on the 22nd, not so good news for those that actually were in the early access, but it is what it is. Aside from the day one content, we know from the roadmap that there is going to be the first episode launching in March that will bring with it expanded story, a new stronghold, all that fun stuff. So they're definitely aiming in the right direction. Let's just hope that they keep it that way. And the game should be a massive success. If they keep going the way that they seem to be going, they should be fine. But anyway, that's it for me. Like and subscribe. Feel free to share. Hit that bell if you want to be notified when new content goes live. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time on the journey through Anthem.